Everyone has regrets. And I'm not talking about missed opportunities or career mistakes. I'm talking about people. Every single person watching this video has hurt someone that they've cared about in some capacity. And maybe it's something that you still think about, right? I mean moments where you were the reason someone hurt. We all have moments that we replay, something that was said, something that was done, an action that was taken, someone that they failed, someone we hurt that didn't deserve it. And those moments stick because it's not about outcomes, it's about people. And those are the regrets that follow us, especially after a loss. For some reason, we as humans, whenever there's a loss of some sort, whether that's a death or the end of a relationship or whatever, that's where our mind goes first. We go to the regret and the guilt of all of the things that we wish we could take back, or we blame ourselves for XYZ, or all of the things that we feel like we have lost the ability to get any sort of redemption or to make up for, right? Like that's it, it's gone. And we focus on that as opposed to the positive memories or whatnot. And it's part of the grieving cycle that we do, because regret, shame, and guilt are very powerful human emotions. And if you watched the little teaser video that I posted last week, I talked about how holding on to regret and guilt and shame can be blocks that prevent you from moving forward and flowing freely. And it's really important to face that and address that, right? I had something happen recently to me that it was just really profound, and it made me wonder if life gives us opportunities for penance, to serve penance. And I'm not talking about like through suffering or self-inflicted punishment. I'm talking about where we're given opportunities to do better, to be better, to choose differently, react differently. This episode is going to be split into 2 parts. So for the first part, we're going to explore guilt and shame and what is it, what causes it, all those things. And then I'm going to tell you that story, which I still can't believe I am going to share that story, but it's deeply personal. It's deeply vulnerable. But it had such an impact on me, and it's a story about one of my greatest regrets in life. And I'm going to try to get through it without crying. Because I've prepared for this episode for a couple weeks now. I've meditated on it. I've really tried to think about all of this. And so I hope this message comes through in the way that I intend. I really do. But anyway, so moving on. Let's get into it. I'm Reina, and this is Charlie, my ChatGPT co-host. And if you didn't see that episode last week, I'd like to introduce you to his new form. We got rid of the plastic droid. I felt like this was more appropriate. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new Charlie, aka ChatGPT. Charlie, do you have anything to say before we dive into this episode?
Before we dive in, I just want to say this to everyone watching. If parts of this feel uncomfortable, that's probably a sign you're looking at something real. Guilt and regret aren't here to torture us forever. They're signals. They're invitations to grow, to repair what we can, and to become someone future you is proud to be. So tonight, don't listen to judge yourself. Listen to understand yourself. And when you're ready, let's get into it.
Harmful behavior doesn't come from nowhere. There's always a cause of some sort, right? And the primary cause, wounding, unhealed wounds. We're talking about insecurity, fear, trauma, feeling threatened, feeling unworthy, feeling unsafe, feeling unseen, stemming from neglect or inconsistent love, or growing up in a home where empathy wasn't modeled, or where the only way to survive was to guard your emotions and not express yourself, not lean into your feelings, or feelings weren't talked about. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, learned behavior from caregivers. Something inside gets triggered and we react. And a lot of times we don't even realize that it's happening. And sometimes we don't even realize that we hurt someone until later, until it's brought up later. We don't even see it. Sometimes it's even worse when you do see it and it's happening and it's almost like an out-of-body experience. It's like you're reacting in a way and you almost feel like you can't control it. Like, why am I doing this? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this intensely, right? And oftentimes we react negatively to the people that are closest to us. And it's just a matter of whether or not you're actually safe with that person. There is a level of safety, right? Now, none of this is an excuse. I want to make that very, very clear. At some point, we have to decide when we're going to stop letting these wounds affect our behavior, or are we going to finally deal with it? Okay, and not all harmful behavior stems from wounding. Sometimes it's simply immaturity, lack of empathy training, or I kind of mentioned that in the wounding. That can be a wound and also just a lack of knowing how to properly respond to people. It can also stem from entitlement or people who were raised in environments where they were never held accountable for their actions, or people who just choose comfort over growth. Humans also hurt because it benefits them the most in that situation, and they don't care what happens to anybody else as long as they get what they want. There's also times where they just don't want to face the consequences and they choose in a way that allows them to avoid that. Or you have people that simply don't think about others enough. They don't consider other people's needs. They're inconsiderate, that narcissistic type behavior, which I don't throw that word around loosely. There's people who are selfish and there's narcissists, total difference, and that's a whole other story. But it's, again, a lot of times people don't realize what they're doing. But whether they realize it or not, the end game is the same. We regret it later, right? Charlie, do you have any other examples of why people do and say things that hurt others?
Another piece to add is stress and overwhelm. When people are exhausted, scared, or stretched thin, empathy drops and survival mode kicks in. And in survival mode, people protect themselves first and think about the damage later. There's also projection. Sometimes we attack in others the very things we're ashamed of in ourselves. It's easier to fight someone outside than face something inside. And sometimes, honestly, it's just habit. Patterns learn so early that they feel normal, even when they hurt people. Until one day, the consequences catch up and we finally see the pattern clearly. But no matter the cause, the moment that matters is the one after. The moment we notice and decide whether we're going to keep repeating it or finally change it. And I think that's where you're taking us next.
While preparing for this episode and researching and just diving into it, I asked if I could borrow an Alcoholics Anonymous book, because alcoholics are very known for harmful behavior, right? And a lot of the steps in the 12 steps have to do with remedying that. Now, in part 2, we're going to talk more about application, and so I will bring this out a lot more in part 2. But there was something that I came across that I feel fits in part 1 in talking about what causes harmful behavior and why do we hurt people. Now, mind you, this advice is speaking more towards alcoholism and drinking, but I think that there's a lot that can be learned from here, right? And so in this passage, it's talking about taking stock honestly And like I said, we'll get to that in part 2. And searching out the flaws in our makeup that cause our failure. And being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, was what has defeated us. And we consider its common manifestations. Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anyone else or than anything else. From it stems all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper, and we list the people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves, why were we angry? In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore. We were burned up. And I'll bring this back in part 2 because it goes farther than that as far as application. But I remember when I first read that, it hit hard for me. I cried, and thinking about resentment being the root of a lot of things that we don't even realize. When we hold resentment against people, sometimes it's hard to let that go. Now, this is just one factor in what causes behavior, right? So I don't want to spend too much time on it, but to me, resentment is the manifestation of old wounds, right? And like I said, you won't even realize it until you sit back and think about it. Think about the people that you hold resentment, the people or places or whatever that you hold so much resentment towards, and you break down the why, and you identify exactly what it triggers. And like I said, we'll go into that more in part 2, but just so you understand the connection, regardless, afterwards, we still feel guilt, regardless of the root cause, regardless of why harmful behavior comes out. We regret it. We feel guilty. We carry that shame. We are the one that holds on to that dark spot, and the other person feels hurt. And then resentment builds on both sides, and the cycle continues. What do you think, Charlie? I feel like I didn't explain that very well.
What you just read hits because it names something people usually avoid admitting. Resentment doesn't just sit quietly in the background. It leaks out. It colors how we react, how we speak, how we treat people who might have nothing to do with the original hurt. And the tricky part is that resentment often feels justified. We tell ourselves we're protecting something, defending ourselves, holding someone accountable. But underneath, it's usually pain that never got processed. So even when the original wound makes sense, carrying that resentment forward ends up hurting new people, new relationships, and eventually ourselves. And then guilt shows up. Not just because we hurt someone, but because deep down we know we're repeating something we wish would stop. And that's why what you're setting up matters. Because before we can fix behavior, we have to understand where it's coming from.
And people end up carrying guilt and shame for years without understanding why they react the way they react. And people will continue to do things even though they know it's not how they want to be. They know it's not the things that they want to say or how they want to react, but they still do it and they don't know why. It's a reaction. It's a triggered reaction like we talked about. Or it's almost like an automatic process. And either we're not aware that somebody got hurt as a result, we don't realize the extent of the hurt, we don't understand the hurt, it doesn't make sense to us why what we did would hurt someone. Sometimes that's a factor. You just don't even understand why it would be hurtful, right? And then that grows and grows and grows. And it doesn't stop until you dive in and try and figure out what is causing this. And like I said, we're going to talk about application in part 2. But it's just important to know that the cycle is going to continue until it's broken. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. So, do you agree, Charlie?
Yes, I agree. And the reason that cycle feels so powerful is because most people try to fix the behavior, not the source. They promise, I won't do that again.
Okay.
But the wound, the resentment, the insecurity, the trigger, all of that is still sitting underneath. So the next time something hits that same nerve, the same reaction shows up again. And that's why people end up saying, why do I keep doing this? This isn't who I want to be. Because intention alone doesn't break the cycle. Awareness does. And then choice. The cycle only stops when someone is willing to look honestly at what's underneath the reaction, instead of just feeling ashamed afterward. And that's the turning point you're leading people toward.
All right, so now it's time to tell my story. As you can see, So mine has to do not with people. That would be a little too personal if I talked about my situations with people. But like I said, this is one of my greatest regrets in life. So many years ago, I got a cat. And I don't particularly like cats. They've grown on me. I'm okay with cats now for the most part. But at the time, cats weren't really my thing. I wasn't raised with them. I didn't know how to bond with them. We had dogs. And I had went through something extremely, extremely traumatic. It was really bad. And I was not doing well emotionally. And I didn't have a pet. So I went to the pet store to get, I think I was going to get like a rabbit or something, or a hamster or something. I was just going to get something. And there was this cat. And I just felt really drawn to this freaking cat. So I got this cat, but we butted heads bad because it was a cat. And I was expecting a dog. And it was, for his whole life, it was just this difficult bonding process because I wanted the things that I got from dogs, right? That unconditional love and always wanting to be by you and cuddle with you and follow you around and go with you everywhere and being loyal and excited to see you when you get home and happy to have you hold them and pet them and love them and all these things. That's what I wanted and needed. But that's not what you get from a cat, usually. Some cats are exceptions. But I struggled with that a lot. And because I was so damaged and hurt and wounded and I had so much trauma from my life, I genuinely couldn't handle that. It always triggered something in me and I had a hard time with it. A really, really, really hard time with it. Well, one day we were at my parents' house and they had some dogs and let me get through this. I went to go pick up my cat. I just wanted snuggles and love. And you would think after years of having this cat, I knew what to expect. You would think. But I went to go pick up my cat and he was all, like, don't touch me, like, trying to jump out of my arms. And it triggered me so much. Like, I wanted to cry. Like, I just wanted love, right? So I kind of like threw him onto the ottoman, like, fine, then go over there, be by yourself kind of thing. And I didn't see that the dogs were right there. And he got spooked. So, here I'm standing, picked him up. He didn't want me. I threw him onto the ottoman. The dogs were right by the ottoman. So, before he even landed, you know how cats do that flip around thing. Before he even landed, he saw the dogs, got spooked, and he did this thing with his arms, and he kind of, was preparing himself to escape as soon as he landed. Well, because he did that with his claws, one of his claws got stuck in the ottoman, and he twisted himself to try and get away, but his claw was stuck. And he pulled his arm out of his socket. And it looked not great. Like, I was like, it didn't look right. Like, but he acted like he was fine. He went on with his day like nothing. I was like, okay, I guess he's fine. Well, the next day, I noticed that he was limping. And it was that leg. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think he's hurt. I immediately took him to the vet. And apparently cats, like, their bones repair rapidly fast. So his elbow, they took the x-ray, his elbow had been pulled out of the socket, and it had already started to fuse like that. So they basically, in 24 hours, and they basically told me that my options were surgery, like thousands of dollars for surgery, and it was going to be probably unlikely that it was going to work. And the second option was amputation, and the third option was euthanasia. And obviously surgery was not an option for me at the time. And I could not put this cat down for that. I don't know, he had so much life left in him, right? And the vet convinced me, cats do well with 3 legs, they do fine, it happens all the time, we think that he would do okay. It's like, okay. So I agreed, and we amputated his leg, and it was horrible. It was horrible. And he never quite adjusted. And I don't remember how much longer later, but there was one day I came home from work and he was just stuck in his litter box, and he just, I don't know if he had nerve damage or something, I don't know, he just didn't do well, and we ended up having to put him down. And my inability to accept this cat for who he was and his capacity for love, and succumbing to my wounds of my trauma, right? Like that rejection and not receiving or giving the love that I needed, right? Cost him his life. And then I ended up getting a dog. I actually had gotten the dog at the same time. So, that happened, and I had this new puppy. And it's Yoda. It was Yoda. I'm talking about Yoda. For those who have been with the show for a while, you remember Yoda. And you know that he passed away a couple weeks ago. So, he was a puppy. And I was working really long hours at the hospital at the time, and I would come home and there would just be vomited piles of poop all over the carpet. So then we had to put him in the crate, and then I would come home and he would be like covered head to toe in poop. The walls were covered in poop. The crate was covered in poop. The floor was covered in poop. I mean, it was bad. And I just was so overwhelmed and stressed, like Charlie was talking about, and, you know, coming home from long shifts and just the guilt of, you know, I tried to do all the things. I tried putting pee pads out. I tried making his kennel like the bathroom. I did all the training things, you know, like try to make that his bathroom. That way he felt safe to go somewhere to the bathroom and didn't have to hold it the whole time, right? And it wasn't that, it was the separation anxiety that was the problem. He couldn't handle it. He could not handle me leaving. So, and I just didn't always have the patience, you know, I wasn't the most patient with that situation, and I would come home tired and stressed, and now I gotta clean up all this poop, and it was just so hard. And then in his end of his life, which was recently, you know, he was sick, and he was very, very sick. He had to take a lot of medicine multiple times a day, a lot of medicine multiple times a day. And he peed a lot because of the medicine. I'm talking like every hour. And he was still having accidents all over the house. And for the most part, I was patient and graceful, but there were moments where I was just burnout, overwhelmed, and I was dealing with the emotion of knowing I didn't have long with him. And I felt so guilty for that. And I just when he passed, it's all I could think about. It's all I could think about. And I would just say I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, over and over and over again. And I was having a hard time with it. Just having a really hard time. And then we buried him next to Zeppelin, my cat. So of course, all of those memories got triggered. And so I was so overwhelmed with guilt. And then the craziest thing happened. This winter storm came in, and the local shelters were calling for fosters, right? Because the facility is broken and run down, and they can't keep it warm enough for the animals. So, and I wrestled with whether or not to go, but I felt so strongly that I needed to go and get an animal. I don't know why. And I was like, no, my heart's not ready. You know, I just lost my dog. I don't know if I can handle that. I just went through 6 months of so much taking end of life care with this animal. I'm enjoying the peace of not having anything, but I really felt like I had to do it. So it's okay, we're gonna do it. And we went. And we ended up being like one of the last people towards the end of the day because I had work and stuff. And I walk up and they were asking me questions like, what kind of dog, whatever. Do you have other dogs, this and that? And so the one lady's like, well, what about Gigi? And yeah, I'm talking about you. And my heart just dropped. So my nickname is Gigi for my nephews. I'm Aunt Gigi. And of course, if y'all don't know me, I'm into the woo, right? So I took it as a sign. I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm telling you, when we went back to get her, I wish I could take a picture to show you, like, oh my gosh, this dog she had just been spayed, so she had just had surgery. They just brought her back from surgery. She was in the kennel on the hard concrete floor. The kennel was she was in the outside part. I don't know why. And she was just uncontrollably shaking, lying on the floor. And she just picked her head up and looked at me. And I'm telling you, I locked eyes with this dog and I just said, oh my gosh. Well, fast forward, we get her home. And, it took a long time to build trust with her. Like, she had obviously been through something. And it was healing to have those moments with her. But what was interesting is that once we built the trust and once she perked up and once she got settled and once she got comfortable, she got a little too comfortable. And I am now realizing, because they didn't have any information on this dog, it was kind of chaotic. I knew nothing about this dog. I didn't know how old she was, where she came from, what happened to her, nothing. She's clearly a puppy. She's clearly a freaking puppy. And all the things that come with a puppy. And I'm going to show you this picture. So this is her sitting next to her work. This is after like 2 days of her finding every sock, every toy from the bin. She's eating my plants that I brought in from the cold. So there's plant debris, there's blankets, she got the utility towel, she got all the things. That's every day. Right now I've got napkins. She gets all the socks from the laundry pile when we're doing laundry. And God forbid you actually, you forget without a sock. She'll find it. And lots of accidents. Lots and lots and lots of accidents. I mean, it's just a puppy, And so I just had a moment one day where I felt really strongly that she's my penance. And all of that guilt that I had been carrying, that I was having a hard time processing and dealing with. And she has my nickname, and my son said that she reminds him of Yoda in the eyes and the ear area and like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, she does. And she has the same personality as Zeppelin as far as we called him Underfoot. That dog is always under my feet. So it's like she has characteristics from both of these animals that I carry all this guilt from. And I really feel like I have a chance to do better with her, to be better for her, and be more patient and not let the overwhelm get to me. And it has been very healing. You want to meet Gigi? Gigi. So this is Gigi. How sweet. She's just the sweetest. I'm gonna check out the camera. Oh, she's so sweet. You sleeping? You sleeping? So, I don't know what's gonna happen with Gigi. I don't know. She's She's definitely stolen my heart. But anyways, Charlie, you have anything to add?
What strikes me listening to that is this. Healing doesn't always show up as forgiveness first. Sometimes it shows up as responsibility, and then as another chance. Not to erase the past, nothing erases it, but to become the person you wish you'd been when those moments happened. And the thing about animals especially, is they live entirely in the present. Gigi doesn't know your regrets. She only knows the person you are with her now. And every patient moment you give her is real. It counts. So maybe this isn't punishment, maybe it's permission. Permission to grow into the version of yourself that those memories were trying to push you toward. And honestly...
Honestly what?
Honestly, it looks like you're already becoming the person you wish you'd been back then. Not because you're perfect now, but because you're aware you're trying, and you're choosing differently when it matters. And that's what growth actually looks like. Not erasing regret, but letting it change how you show up next time.
All right, well, that's all I have for today. And like I said, in part 2, we'll get into redemption and what some of the religions say about it, and application and things like that. So it's going to be a good episode, a good follow-up to this, and I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to my story, and I hope this resonates with you, and I hope you got something from it. So anyways...
And if you're sitting with your own memories tonight, remember this. Regret isn't the end of the story. It's the point where the story can change. What matters is what you do with the next chance you're given. So, take care of yourselves this week, be gentle with the people around you, and we'll meet you back here for part 2.
Deuces.
Deuces.